Something is missing. Let's mute. Share. Where is it? I'd mentioned yesterday I spent a good portion of let's see, my early 20s as a bike messenger. Let's see, interview. I've not seen this film. I've seen this. I looked at the start at the beginning of it. I don't, not familiar with the director, but Interview with God, starring Brendan Thwaites. I'm familiar with through a 2014 film called The Signal with Lawrence Fishburne, Morpheus, no less. Fascinating film too. And Thwaites' character, gets it, whether it's an abduction experience, but gets new legs. Certainly fitting for your old Hawkeye. I'm just bringing this up because certain things that occur, like an experience I'd had earlier this year. I believe it was April 6th. So imagine literally watching or checking out a film on April 6th, and in this particular film, if I might potentially pull it up, but there's a significant event like a murder on April 6th, and the evening of April 6th, which of course in Rome is April 7th, Francis Xavier's birthday. I've discussed before with an event that had happened in Canada just after, let's see, January, February of 2018, Francis Xavier's severed arm made a cross Canada adventure from east to west over January and February of 2018. And in April that year, the evening of April 6th, after 5 p.m., as mainstream media prints, that a particular event, an accident, took place between a semi-truck and a bus with a boys hockey team, and there were three. And amongst all the 20-something victims, there were three young men named Logan. Different Logans, not related. One of them being Logan Boulet, the force behind what would become Green Shirt today, and organ donation. And I think in part it's either, I don't want to get into this, I don't have it all down yet, but it either is in the process or it has been. Certainly in Nova Scotia, there's an opt out. You're considered an organ donor unless you opt out. And I think in Canada, at least in British Columbia, you used to, when renewing your driver's license, be able to declare, or I think it was have a sticker on your driver's license that you could put on your driver's license that declared if you were an organ donor or not. And then that changed. I don't have the information on that, but the shift to, I don't know if it had to do with when you do your taxes. Anyway, fascinating story. Nonetheless, the three Logans, Logan Belay, and then one young man named Xavier Labelle, who was misidentified, declared dead. His family, as it would, the story in the media would state, obviously began the grieving process, and I believe it was approximately 2 days later discovered in I'm sure the name of the hospital, it would be very revealing. I don't have that at the moment, but Xavier Labelle, Xavier the Beautiful, was indeed found alive. So just a coincidence that these events would essentially happen on Francis Xavier SJ, potentially Loyola's closest companion on Xavier's birthday. So checking out this film, and it on the evening of April 6th this year, whatever day it was, and the fact that in the film a significant event occurs, a murder happens on April, the night of April 6th. It was like when the dates come across the screen, it's like pause. I just went for a long walk. It's just like, okay, is this supposed to be, back to this idea of sense of humor, timing, and there's no such thing as coincidence, and the fact that we get the same old tropes, the same old the fact that passports are still used, that still how about that still have did you say pertinent information? The fact that it discussed at length Tom Aldhouse with Johnny multiple times discussing the Matrix, his relationship to the screenplay, and a lot of his personal information being within Thomas Anderson in his file folder, and then of course or Thomas A. Anderson or Neo's passport, you have the September 11th date amongst a couple other dates. I believe there's a September 12th on there too, which there's a Jesuit general date connected to that. But the fact that even the Batman, was it Mike? No, the most recent with. No, it's great. Now I'm forgetting names. And I know if I even made video, I was so moved. I'd only seen it once, and yet it so affected. And of course, how many times Jesus and Jesus Christ being dropped by multiple characters, like so Matt Reeves. So released March 4, which is I remember covering this film. So Robert Pattinson had played Bruce Wayne, aka or the Batman, in the Batman, and Paul Dano plays the Riddler and has one. It's either identification card, so his driver's license. One of his driver's licenses actually has July 21st, so the Jesuit suppression anniversary day on his card, on his ID card or driver's license. The fact that we're in 2022 and they're still pulling this shit. Okay, back to Interview with God. So I have a messenger background. Let's see. The fact that, okay, I know this is low resolution. There's not going to be any audio, but we're just over 6 minutes into this. Again, I've not seen it, but I have no why whether scrubbing through it caught this. So in part, I have a kind of a connection with this actor, and found out he was in this, and I think that's what led to checking this out. So of course, it's funny the kind of bicycles that are used in films with, and then how characters are dressed, and then Thwaites has a messenger bag on. This bag is American made. I believe actually it's it might even actually be San Francisco. Chrome Industries. No, that's going to take. Come on. Look at this. With the wiki page is not the number one. Oh shit! Port. No way. I could have sworn. Oh yeah, thank you. Here we go. Chrome Industries is a global manufacturer of messenger bags, backpacks, sling bags, utilities like messenger fish cuisines. After establishing a reputation in Boulder, Colorado in '95, Chrome moved to Denver for several years before relocating in 2002 to St. Francis. And I've had a number of Chrome Industries Chrome bags. 2017, the company moved headquarters to Portland, Oregon. So, oh wow, okay. So, and a specific shoulder bag as well, because I was left shoulder dominant until a particular accident. No, I'm right shoulder dominant with when I wear the single sling style, and so the right shoulder carries were a special order, but I don't produce them anymore. But anyway, in this film, this is why this is meaningful to me, because homeboy's rocking. So we've got our chrome bag slung over his right shoulder, and it's like, why? Back to this idea: why do we take things personally? Hopefully, I can catch it. Okay, homeboy's running across. And where is it? Shortly. Okay, obviously it happens very quickly. If you're not looking for it, you blink, you miss it. But the fact, homeboy's carrying his chrome bag upside down. So this is a left shoulder bag, but he just happens to be wearing it slung over his right shoulder. The bag should not be carried this way. This would be effing awkward. Take it for what it is, but the fact again that I get to see this, and it's like, okay, that's back to being a little. It's beyond funny. It's just it's something else. All right, and then of course Brenton Thwaites. We have our born 10 August 1989. Over a decade younger than me. Has been the same birthday as Jesuit Eusebio Kino. Interesting to note, Kino having we're given the death date of March 15th, so 3/15/1711. So approximately 8 years after Lorenzo Ricci would have been born. Ricci being born in 1703, but nonetheless, the Ides of March. And remember, my position is Claudio, fifth Jesuit Superior General, is the source of all Shakespearean work, and notably, the Bewaring the Ides of March is actually a reference to beware the one that crushes the head of the serpent, which is just as I mentioned, I brought up briefly last night or yesterday's brief broadcast. It is a reference to Genesis 3:15. Jesus of Nazareth being crucified at the location of his crucifixion, the place of the skull, Golgotha, whose skull? Goliath's skull. Goliath's skull, member, being brought to Jerusalem after David, with his sling, defeated the giant and then took the giant's own sword and beheaded him. And then, in part, is this the source of beheading? And then, of course, this connection with John the Baptist and Jesus too. Okay, and then Kino being, remember, cinema, literally Kino being the, whether it's Russian, whether it's German, whatever languages, using Kino for cinema. For me, I remember again learning Kino Pravda, so cinema truth, cinema. Yeah, that's another rabbit trail we're not going down yet. Okay, so we got friends. Eusebio Franciscino connection in part. So anyway, interesting to me. Thank you for sitting through that interview with God. I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it. It's just probably something that pisses off in some shape or form. I had one audit also. So yesterday, being August 31st, where is it? August 31st, 1854. So we're going back to, amongst the team, there's a lot of events happened around 1844, just before, just after. August 31st, 1854, London experienced a recurrent epidemic of cholera. So we hear of Snow, which is John Snow. Look at this. Ides of March, 15 March 1813. So he gets a birthday just after the first Edward Jenner inoculation, 14 May 1796. So John Snow, born 15 March, the Ides of March 1813. Yeah, and then of course here's our fictional character Jon Snow in what's it called, Game of Thrones, which it's crazy how, again, whether it's an individual film or a series that just blows right the F up. Okay, Jon Snow. Baptized at all the irony, the All Saints Church, North Street, York. And where is it? He tells us specifically. Maybe I'm thinking of also Edward Jenner being we're given a lodge number and a date for. Okay, there's a reason. Okay, I know I don't want to go down. There's more to it than just this. So Snow, vegetarian, and embraced ovo-lacto vegetarian diet, supplementing his vegetables with dairy products and eggs. He later became vegan. He continued drinking pure water via boiling throughout his adult life. He never married. These were two interesting points. Certainly, there's to look further into. I want to say there's a Freemason connection. But so never marrying, not that that's the be all end all, but context is everything. Was he priest material? He continued drinking pure water, which this stuck out to me as there's a character in Steven Spielberg's Empire of the Sun with a very, very young Christian Bale, and this character is played by John Malkovich, and it's pointed out many, many times why Malkovich never gets sick, and it has to do with he only drinks boiled water. Just interesting connection. All right, we go back to Jon Snow suspected water from the Broad Street pump as a source of disease. To test his theory, Snow reviewed death records of area residents who died from cholera and interviewed household members, documenting that most deceased persons had lived near and had drunk water from the pump. Snow presented his findings to community leaders, and the pump handle was removed on 8 September 1854. Just while I'm there, I have an 8. Where is it? Okay, if I don't find it in a moment, I'll just jump ahead. Okay, I'll just keep going. Removal of the handle prevented additional color. My position at this point is that this was all a test. This was literally what could one contaminated water source do? How far could it reach, especially in a city, in a city, in what, how would you environment? What am I looking for? Okay, as far anyway, all I wanted to do was bring that up. That I can further explore that at another point. And then, of course, where is it? How didn't? Yeah, this seemed to. If if you're familiar with some of my work, the idea of the study of nematodes, cestodes, trematodes, so roundworms, tapeworms, flatworms. The fact that so you look at this, August 30th, 2023, as when it's CBC had published this. This may not be the correct date for the story being broken, but a neurosurgeon investigating a woman's mysterious symptoms in an Australian hospital says she plucked a wriggling worm from the patient's brain. The roundworm Ophidascaris robertsi is commonly found in carpet pythons, but had never been seen in humans before. Yeah, I wonder. I don't know about that. The not the fact that a roundworm being found in a human being and in a strange location, or supposedly strange location, but the fact that this has never been seen in humans before. From personal experience, which I've discussed, this, just let's see, 2018. We don't maybe dedicate another time to this, rehashing this. 2018, my first experience. How about this? When was it? When the team and Shannon Rowan, a number of weeks ago, maybe even going back a couple months, did a particular interview. It was neat. In the introduction, it was, what made you? I'll be paraphrasing, so and I can't remember specifically, but the idea was, what made you aware or know that, like throwing the bullshit flag on the pandemic narrative. And every many gave the various answers. All were great. The fact, look, to be awake, to know that the narrative, nothing is as it seems, and what we're being told and sold as a bill of goods, it's clearly a false narrative. Something else is going on. And I know for me, everything in my world changed, even though I've had some pretty wild experiences, and I've got the scars to prove it. Yeah. How about this? The statement: as soon as you start pulling 2 footers, 2 foot plus roundworms out of your back door, out of your end, your worldview changes very quickly. And so, leading into what began, or near the end of 2019 into 2020, my own health journey had to make a few decisions. And so while this other narrative's unfolding, my own narrative was unfolding. And clearly it's like, okay, and it didn't just stop at one. Like, I spent about 2 years. How about this? So, I'm a regular dude. A very boring diet, a relatively clean diet. I gave up certain things like pork and so on years ago, well over a decade ago, and selectively eat meat. Anyway, whether this is it's either going to be shocking or not, the thing is, hey, it's Comme d'habitude, business as usual. Shoulder shrug. It is what it is. And the idea, though, and this is something that also Dr. Jennifer Daniels, who's now living abroad, and is Johnny had referenced her in the Disciples of Ra, and she discussed at multiple points roundworms, tapeworms, flatworms, like oh my goodness, why am I forgetting? Flukes. And then, of course, which inevitably led me to the work of Dr. Hulda Bergier Clark, the late Dr. Clark, who has a Hulda Clark. She has an October 18. So there's an event 201 connection, but she also has a September 3rd connection. Okay, so if you've heard some of my recent work, 3 September is a significant date. 1539, Pope Paul III, Alessandro Farnese, declared this is the finger stroke of God when Ignatius Loyola presented the formula to him, and were given on a Jesuit website, September 3rd, 1539, the day that Paul III made the declaration. And then I had also loosely brought up the irony of in 20. You know what? Let's look it up. Iron Maiden, Senjutsu, which is loosely translated as tactics and strategy, or why don't you just come out with it as art of war? Look at this. Released September 3rd, 2021. Songs like Writing on the Wall, Stratego, and the opening track, Senjutsu, and the concluding track, again, brilliant, Hell on Earth. I know that the captain has brought up many times about how anybody can play bass, guitar. That I don't want to put words in his mouth. We can break each other's balls about it, but sure, anybody in a way can do anything. Anybody can hit something and it sound like percussion, but to do it well, that's another story. Because there certainly is a level of skill, and of course, for me, Steve Harris. Now, it's not about going down the rabbit trail of Iron Maiden, but Steve Harris's bass playing. That's as a young boy. My first Iron Maiden album, bought vinyl. Seventh Son of a Seventh Son. I did at that point. I never heard anything like "Can I Play with Madness?" Anyway, crazy times. We're going back to the 80s for that one. But yeah, Steve Harris and Nikki Sixx and Motley Crue. I don't know whether the Milli Vanilli narrative that's coming out has come out about Motley Crue these last little while. But certainly it was the influence from Motley Crue. There's a number of other bass players, but no slouches, not easy playing, and of course, bass playing that how many musicians cite that it changed them. But the Steve Harris Gallup, there's something. Hey, there's something about that, and then of course the power of music, and then the intention behind it, and who's actually producing this stuff. Anyway, but nonetheless, just like it's been brought up before, okay, if there's something inspiring from it, ride the wave, but recognize clearly the source. We are living in a parasitic system. All right, back to Jon Snow. Okay, I'll have to. Maybe I am combining Edward Jenner and Snow, but I believe there's a source. There's an actual date, or am I literally just overlooking quickly? Also, too, let's see, 1813. Also, while we're here, I'll point out Bernard Courtois. Bernard. We have 8. February. So we have a Jean Joseph Marie Amiot connection, and then his death date 27 September 1838. Now, what is Bernard Courtois credited with finding? Iodine, making early photography possible. This is amazing. What this whole narrative, because it had to do with also creating the creation of gunpowder for the Napoleonic Wars, but the fact that in 1811, as we're told, the discovery of, iodine, 1811 iodine, which is a halogen like chlorine, bromine, and fluorine, astatine, which is, I think, a rare, something that we don't necessarily. Anyway, usually it's left out of the equation. I'm of the opinion now, my position with iodine. If somebody were to discuss fluoride or fluorine, bromide or bromine, and chlorine, and without mentioning iodine, it's like saying Adam Weishaupt without saying the word Jesuit. That's my position right now, to speak of one and not immediately discuss this. So the absence of this within the human body means that the body will automatically, because iodine is essential for life, health, the body will use chlorine, it will use fluorine, it'll use bromine to execute all. Like, imagine if I've not used a microscope, I don't know these processes, but from what I've studied, and then of course, anyway, I have not even looked at the chat. I might just be talking on my own. Hey, good, thank you, Benjamin. How are the fires where you're at, man? Yeah, that's great questions. I've not been checking the news. Where I'm at, I look out my window. There's nothing. But travel a little, 4 hours east, or less, and there's activity. Nonetheless, we have had a bit of weather change. We had some rain recently. I was looking into Emily Murphy. Yeah, suspected. Okay, good, Eric. I'm not familiar with the name, but that's fine. Take pancake. You eat pancakes every day. Rocked 73. I don't recognize you, but hey, thanks for being here. What is so what's are you saying pancake as in place of iodine? You mean to say iodine? Spankay brand. That's where on the flat earth are you? I do not recognize that. Anyway, thank you for Spankay brand. I will look at. Fantastic. So iodide is a salt of iodine, potassium iodide solution. Potassium. If I'm missing something, that's okay. But the fact that, hey, I wonder what if your Courtois was just 61 when he died. Snow was just 45. Yeah, certainly young men. Again, Snow. I want to say there's a Freemasonic connection, and I don't need to start digging into that now. But so going down the iodine route, and then just before that, covering the. I got history, or I got stories about worms. It's certainly not. It's not a surprise. I believe in part. We each of us. So there's whether it's Ascaris or different types of roundworms, and and this applies to every single animal. and there are different roundworms, flatworms, and tapeworms for each animal. So there are things native to humans, and so this discussion here in Australia that the roundworm is commonly found in carpet pythons, but has never been seen in humans before, and the fact that it was found in their brain. Now the thing is that this is not new to me, but it's funny, why are they bringing this into our consciousness, especially on the I don't know if this would be a pun, on the tail end of the where we're at, the 3+ years into the COVID-19 narrative, and then adding on to that. So Pfizer began as an antiparasitic producer, and the idea that ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine were used, and with great success, by many people who did not want to go down the vaccination route. And so there's obviously the big controversy of why are people taking another pharmaceutical called ivermectin, and what's ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine? Well, they're antiparasitics, I believe it's antihelminthic, specifically ivermectin, and antiparasitic drugs. Okay, at this, it's like there's so much information, and it to many, it's so crazy. It's like, don't even discuss this. What have I? Oh, I lost. It's lost. Okay, that's okay. Maybe it'll come back. Anyway, I just wanted to bring up the fact. I believe my position. The cholera outbreak, August 31st, 1854, and John Snow. This was actually a test. Accurately mapping out what contaminated water source would do, how many people it would affect, how far it would spread. I also believe that the connection was, this is how the Jesuit order ferried around disease. There's nothing mysterious. Literally, they carried disease. I'm using that very broadly, but within literally their stool, and potentially with soiled hands. Now, this is Hawkeye's theory. I certainly cannot prove this, but the idea of contaminating blankets, we know that's horseshit. Pun intended. Anyway, certainly it's a fascinating study. Parasitology is certainly fascinating. There's Jesuit in the parasitology woodpile. We don't need to get I will, because it's a topic that's near and dear to me. I will probably cover intentionally more of that at some point. And I also wanted to bring up, I guess, while I'm discussing it, the idea of and also coffee enemas. What's the purpose of the coffee enema? It actually causes. Remember, if another, is it a hypothesis or what I think is going on? Why people are experiencing something in conjunction with the wireless grid? There is. And this is also was recently published as well. Wastewater testing, COVID-19. Yep, we use our search engine that shares the same birthday as the Jesuit order, September 27th. Yeah, look at, well, even just here, the top of the list, COVID-19 wastewater surveillance explained. Waterloo Region wastewater testing reveals rising COVID-19 presence. Sewage is the new gold for public health scientists who track viruses. Heatwave, Minnesota, COVID-19 wastewater testing changes. The fact that, okay, here, what comes out of us is being tested, and it's an indicator. 19 subvariant. continue to monitor and invest. Wastewater monitoring, infections rise in Maine, wastewater testing. There's clearly something going on here, and I posit that okay, it's we have critters in us. Think of what even digests our food. It's not human. From acids, and then you add the whatever the number is, the bacteria, whatever it is, they are that assist in the breakdown of what we consume, so that we are able to absorb and then use for daily life, for fuel, for everything, the whole process. And then, of course, we eliminate. But the point is, what's in us, and if map it out, the trophic chain, and it's I don't know where worms and critters, these critters fall in, but below them, there's however many levels below them. But remember, whatever eats also excretes. And certainly we react to that as well. And if we're, especially how many people are ill, there's a disharmonious nature inside. And anyway, I wasn't even thinking of getting into this tonight, apart from just bringing up the what was published recently. But the fact, again, wastewater being tested, it's like, okay, what's in us? Okay, and so what, meaning what's coming out of us is being tested, because clearly there's something going on there. It's this, to me, this is, it isn't just the air. It isn't just there's nothing going on. No, there's clearly something going on. So, and I believe in part it literally it goes back to what has been learned about us. What has been learned, there's been specific study, and I believe in part this is part of the purpose of the so-called plague doctors during Black Death, so supposed Black Death type outbreaks and pandemics. What was learned has been applied, and literally, and I've described what I believe the liver is like if you were familiar in any shape or form with engines, classically, every engine will have an oil filter. Well, you clog that oil filter up, and the oil cannot do what it does, which is everything from lubricate, temperature regulation, but also attract, hold contaminants, carbon, other debris. And then, of course, the purpose of an oil change is clearing all that out and then putting fresh oil in. Well, you clog up the human liver, or any animal, whether it's with toxins, or how about this, with other life forms that are drawn to it. Okay, so then, and if our biliary tree, I can't remember the facts. In a human being, the biliary tree, it measures. It's a crazy distance. So if the liver bile duct, common liver bile duct, which is also at a certain point with the liver bile duct, also connects to the pancreas. It's like you got to wonder about certain diseases that involve specifically the pancreas. How about noting that recently the death of the potentially ordained Jesuit Michael S. Heiser, I believe it was revealed it was pancreatic cancer. And then could that have been whatever? I'll just leave the ellipsis there, the ... It's pretty wild. But we are the life that is within us. It's again, just like this idea of we do not fully understand at all the place in which we live, and what we've been, the narrative we've been told and sold is absolutely false. And it has completely taken away the wonder of the place we live, and the close proximity of our Creator. All right. Just checking the chat. Kids eat snails, worms go to the brain. It's not just about, remember, there's also there are critters native to snails, native to slugs, native to, think of you get into every single injection, it sounds like given, if I'm not mistaken, horseshoe crab blood. what are the critters, literally the nematodes that are native to horseshoe crabs? And then if it's true that a nematode can produce 200,000 eggs per day, sorry, Eric, I'm not sure to surprise you. I had a debate with told that trauma, family, and domestic violence not exist. Well, I don't know if context is key, but I don't know why somebody would say that. Is that what was the debate? And we don't necessarily need to get into that, but that's that sounds really strange. Premature to die at those ages, yeah. In general, those associated with works of powers that it's possible they were prematurely helped into the next life. So, yep, certainly possible. Certainly possible. And then why did I? Okay, there's a reason why. Interview with God, Brenton Thwaites, we covered. Oh, speaking of which, shout out! Hey, look at this! It's from analytics. I know that there's a Marie out there. Thank you very much. It sounds like from Arizona, but my audience is 100% male. There's a certain age demographic, but United States, Canada, United Kingdom, Austria, and France. That's wild. I know that there's been a couple other countries, but that have not shown up in the last. Well, again, how authentic is this? But I've got to go by something. But just acknowledging, hey, if you're wherever you're at, thank you for checking out my stuff. And why? Okay, I think in part this idea. Okay, wastewater. This I will cover it another time. A film title was brought up at some point. Two Guns with, come on, what are the names? So Jesuit trained Denzel Washington and devout Roman Catholic. What have I done? Devout Roman Catholic Mark Wahlberg. I haven't thought about this film until the captain mentioned this film title, and immediately look at this image. My first thought: white Pope, black Pope. And then going back to our date, and we're gonna actually add a significant another layer to the August 2nd. So not only is it Lorenzo Ricci's birthday, remember Ricci born 18 Jesuit Superior General, born 1803, 2nd August. We also have Pierre Charles L'Enfant, if I can spell. Not in the news, but in general. Remember, so birthday, August 2nd, 1754. 4 years prior to Ricci beginning his generalate, but his death day, June 14, 1825, June 14 being the birthday of Donald John Trump. So there's the connection there, and specifically remember the what was the name of it? Remember the congressional. I think it would. This is going back. I believe it was 2017, June 14, 2017, on Trump's birthday. Congress. I might be getting this wrong. Baseball shooting. Yeah, 2014. 14 June 2017, and Jesuit. There's a particular photo. Don't have all the names down, but this is a brilliant find. I believe Doc or the captain found this. But look, here's our 666. And this in part was I think why we look at like the Damar Hamlin event earlier this year. and the fact that I don't have the names down, but here we have who's leading in prayer and what's on his jersey. Je suis, I am. Is it Billy Graham? I am, or just as I am. His one of his book titles, which I believe is sophistry and casuistry. That a subtle declaration of Billy Graham saying, "I'm a Jesuit." So June 14, 2017, and then so the connection between the architect of Washington D.C. to Donald Trump. Donald Trump, we know, being Jesuit trained at Fordham for 2 years, and then being sent to the so-called public University of Pennsylvania and the Wharton School of Business. And what do I want to? Peter Faber, one of the first 7, certainly one of the first 10. Peter Faber, S.J. So he has a 13 April 1506 date. Xavier is, I think Xavier is around this time. Francis Xavier has a 15, maybe it's 1510. Anyway, similar age date. Was Jesuit priest and theologian, co-founder. So credit also as co-founder of the Society of Jesus, along with Ignatius of Loyola and Francis Xavier. Okay, so the homeboy here rounds out the first 3 even. So if they're the closest 3, here they are. So Loyola, Xavier, and Faber or Fav. Faber was born 1506, and so Jesuit preacher, ordained priest 30th of May 1534. He received the religious vows of Ignatius and his 5 companions at Montmartre on 15 August. Remember, so the Feast of the Assumption. I don't know if the 5 companions, I believe there were 6, because there were 7 in total during the 15 August 1534. Okay, let's look at a couple of extra dates. So he has a death date of 1st August 1546. I believe that's the same year. 1546 was the year that Luther also died. I could check that in a second. So canonization date. So 17 September. Who canonized Faber? Pope Francis. And what is December 17th? During his first year as Francis I, his first year as Jesuit White Pope, the first White Pope. This is Jorge Mario Bergoglio's birthday, December 17. And note, Peter Faber or Fav, feast day, August 2nd. So in part, did Lorenzo Ricci, whose birthday is 2nd August, also honor the beginning of the Jesuit order as we're given, with its role as the Counter-Reformation, subduing the entire world in whatever shape or form you choose, or your position is now, flat, round, whatever. A little, I think, a little chubby at the middle, as deGrasse Tyson would say. 2nd August. So of course, back to Two Guns. Released 2012 on August 2nd, which I had shown. So there's with Jesuit trained Denzel Washington, devout Roman Catholic Mark Wahlberg, and then we go to Hobbs and Shaw. Fast and Furious presents Hobbs and Shaw, released 2019. August 2nd, 2019. And what is in this? I know I'm playing clips. You know what? I'll see if I can find it. There's a Resident Evil. There's a Hobbs and Shaw CT-17. It's like another Saint Mary's virus from V for Vendetta. Oh, come on. So I can't see what I'm typing. Piss off. CT-17, unbelievable virus. I don't know if we can. There's a particular scene, and if it takes a year to load, oh boy. And yeah, we're going to the moon, aren't we? Or we're going to Mars or Venus. Pick your planet. Just as Gus Grissom criticized, even communications between rooms. And Grissom, I think in part I spoke about briefly, had died in 1967 on January 27th. And then remember, 2015, January 27, 2015, Johnny Cerrucci published his first book, Illuminati Unmasked. CT-17 virus. Anyway, there's a restaurant scene where Ryan Reynolds approaches. Oh, this is going to piss me off. Forget it. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's character and his daughter, but lays out this something had been stolen by Idris Elba's character. No, I'm getting the plot wrong. Okay, it's been a while. It's a little fuzzy, but the fact that it's disclosed that there's something called the CT-17 virus, codename. It's what's stated. So there's what Reynolds character says, and then there's what the paper that Reynolds' character holds up, and they're two completely different narratives. But there's a reference to snowflake. And it's of biblical proportions, and there's a reference to unicorn, I believe, as well, code name of this CT-17 virus. So a primer for us. The year, not even 6 months later, we're having an entire world meltdown over a narrative. Clearly planned, because remember, Jesuit trained, potentially highly probable Jesuit ordained Anthony Fauci announced January 10, 2017 at Georgetown University that during the Donald Trump administration, there would be a surprise outbreak. And we've hit that audio a number of times. But the fact, January 10th, 2017, we have a name, a place, and a date. Jesuit Georgetown University. Okay, I'm getting a little squirrely here. I think it's time to... Hey, Hawkeye and Chatters. Yeah. Hey. Shout out to Keith if you're not here as well. But yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for checking things out even after the fact. Hawkeye and Chatters, papal names. Okay, thank you very much for bringing this. The fact I totally forgot. Even we have there were two different John the 23rds. A number of there's the Gregories. There's the Piuses. There's multiple names. I drew a blank last night, but thank you for covering that, Benjamin. And then, of course, is it even irony? Our certain world history, of course, that's interesting to me, and should be at the beginning, as we're told, the beginning of the Jesuit order. The King of France, Francis I, was commissioning so-called exploration voyages across the ocean. And then Cartier even erecting, remember, the 30-foot cross at what would become the Gaspe Peninsula on 24 July 1534, claiming the land for the King of France, essentially Francis I. And now that we have Pope Francis, but officially he is Francis I. Anyway, the day, maybe can't remember. Yeah, Jared. Hey, thanks for being here. Okay, I think it's at just after midnight. Wow. Okay, yawn it out and get some rest wherever you're at, or have a good morning. Have a good breakfast if you're that kind of person. Have a good coffee if you're that kind of person. If you smoke, maybe consider quitting. Or what is it? I always heard that what was called a Greek breakfast is, what is it? It's a cup of water, black coffee, and and a cigarette. Just say no to Greek breakfast. Actually, I think I'd choose a Greek breakfast over anything from what the Golden Arch place. Man, I've smoking. I stayed away from. I grew up. Everybody and their dog smoked. All adults, parents, grandparents. Yeah, that's how I smoked. It was secondhand, and would pay the price in part. All right, now the nicotine gets rid of. Yeah, that too. How about that? Brian Artis, and the snake venom at the very end. At the very end of Stu Peters, you get the screen flash of nicotine. Good catch, good catch, Benjamin. Appreciate that. All right, until potentially tomorrow. All right. So shout out to each, and again, rocked 73. If I've missed you before, hey, you're Australia, fantastic. If Sydney, Australia, okay. I was covering briefly the story. I hope I've got this right. If you're checking in from Sydney, Australia, wow, that's so cool. Just like we had a chime in last night from the Philippines. That is awesome. You know, as crazy as technology can be, man, reach out and touch someone. This idea that as far apart as we are, look how close in part. So anyway, bless each one of you. High fives, bear hugs, brotherly bear hugs. I guess you'd have to follow it up with now, because that clearly means something else now. Okay, September 1st, we are into the 7th. The name, even though it's named the name, I think it was the 7th month in the Julian calendar and the Gregorian. We're in the 9th month, approaching some significant dates. All right, here we go. You guys rock. All right, this is Yokai. Bye for now. What would this? What is German? Tschüss. Tschüss.